Joining us on the panel here is going to be Lloyd Davies. And Lloyd is the co-founder of Scrubbit, which is a fascinating app that actually helps manage the process in the operating theatre. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks very much.
So tell us, what is it about Scrubbit that really gets you excited every time you go and try to pitch it to somebody?
I think, like all people in software and a development background, it's solving a problem. So there's quite a large problem in the operating theatre around preparing setups and preparing them accurately and in a timely fashion. And Scrubbit's a great solution for doing that. So although I come from a development background, I didn't know anything about health or operating theatres, it's still just solving a problem. And I think, like Martin, we're just passionate about solving problems with tech because we know we can. And that's really the main thing that I like to do, is just solve people's problems. And this is a really big problem that I think we've solved really well.
What's the impact that this problem solving has had in the industry?
We're still measuring a lot of it. You mentioned before we're in a scale-up phase. I think you're saying that only because of timing. Health is very slow, so I don't feel we're quite there yet. Just imagine, you're on the operating table. During your operation, it's more than likely that the scrub nurse will spend about 2.5 minutes of that time that you're out of the operating theatre to go and get something that's been missed. So by reducing that down to under a second on average per operation, we've been able to make a dramatic improvement to the quality of operations. Obviously the surgeons are happier because they're not getting delayed in the work that they're doing, which is obviously very integral, and it's expensive and it's time driven. But also then, of course, there's a lot of impact around that on saving of equipment and such in making sure that they're not wasting items that are very expensive. So there's a lot of time and cost savings around it, but there's just a lot of quality of job satisfaction for all of the stakeholders around it that's really important, especially when you're the patient on the table. You want a happy team working on you.
Absolutely.
So with all that in mind, given your background, where did Scrubbit come from? What was the catalyst for it?
So Scrubbit was the brainchild of Beth Wozniak, one of our co-founders, and she's a scrub. And she came out of university, went into scrubbing and realised that this process of doing setups was completely manual. And it's the scrub's job to make sure that it's right. So someone else was doing the job and then they had to check it. And the amount of mistakes she found in that process is quite astronomical. And the scrubs just cover it up. And she's, being a millennial, she wasn't happy with that. She wasn't satisfied with that. So she went looking for a solution. And it just so happens that her mother and I had built software previously in disability services. We've had a relationship for over 10 years doing software together and worked together very well professionally, to the point that we're friends after that, or after all those jobs finished. So naturally, we just made an introduction and we took it from there. I took it away and investigated the problem further. I didn't believe the problem existed. I certainly hoped it didn't. And so I went and did my validation around what was going on and realised it actually was a problem, not just here, but it's worldwide. So, we took it on from that point. So it was Beth's idea that she brought to us to try and solve together.
Yeah, right. I'm interested in the evolution of how it's gone from the inception, and then you guys started and where you're at now. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yes, sure. So we obviously went away and worked out what the problems were. We were very lucky that Beth's employer, we went through a process there initially of getting approved to go into their operating theatres. So we had a live environment in which we could build and test our product. But we did a lot of that after hours, weekends, when there were no operations going on. But we did have access to the environment, which was extremely important from many, many aspects. As simple as you're in a concrete bunker, so there's only Wi-Fi in the hallways. So at the moment you go into a storeroom or a stock room, you lose Wi-Fi, things like that. Really obvious things once you know about them, but not obvious as a software developer who expects just to have access to data all the time. We built up our MVP, which we then took on site at that hospital. at Maitland Private in a healthy care hospital, and we started testing it with the people there. We picked a few key stakeholders who we knew were open to the idea, that were positive about the idea of working with us, and we obviously iterated quite a bit from that point until we actually went live. It probably took us there was a good 4 months from our first product to a go live product, and that was over 18 months ago now, so we've made quite a lot of change to the product in that time. The journey for Scrub-It then's been trying to get some more validation. We went into the Slingshot HCF Catalyst program, did a lot of work in there about validating our idea and our product. It became quite evident that in the health space we really needed that corporate support to make it happen. It's very difficult as a brand new idea, no matter how good it is, to get any traction. There's a lot of stakeholders in this space, from CEOs to scrubs to the people that do the setup, to the patient, to the doctor, and we have to find all of the triggers that make them want Scrub-It. And some people are scared by that because it'll take away, well, they think it'll take away their job rather than helping them do it better. So we've had to identify all those things. So we've been working on creating some corporate relationships as well. We're currently talking to medical supply companies because they know the problem exists, but they also have their own problems in the same space. So we're commercialising the product. We're looking to commercialise the product in conjunction with them as well and get a bit of clout, let's say, rather than just being a small startup.
Because this is what you mentioned, the slowness of taking up, and corporate, both public and private. But what's been the experience of getting across that line? At what point do they see the value of what you're saying?
Yeah, well, Greg, that's kind of what I'm saying. Everybody's value proposition in what we're doing is very different. So the person on the ground sees the value because they can do a better job. The doctor sees the value, or the surgeon sees the value because there's no delays. Same with scrubs. The nurse unit manager sees delays because she's not got taxis driving all around Newcastle delivering items that have been missed or forgotten. So everybody's got different triggers, and that's been a real challenge for us because we've solved the problem, but we've got to make sure we're solving the trigger for the decision. And that's really different, and that's why we believe by partnering with someone that sort of understands those triggers a little bit more, has triggers of their own, and therefore can, let's say, have a little bit more clout in that space over integrating their offering with our offering to make it happen. That's been really important for us in the health space, let's say.
My personal question for you is, how do you keep going? How do you keep your motivation going to persist to the end?
It's really difficult at times, I must admit. It's a very emotional journey. You spend a lot of time, a lot of your own energy, a lot of your own money, a lot of time away from family. I'm not getting any younger, so it's that's really difficult. So you need the support of everybody to make that happen. How do you keep going? I think we believe we've got the inception of a really good product that can really make a difference to a big problem. I think we're just still looking for the right triggers in that space to make it explode. Yeah.
I mean, how many times did you actually have to pitch this to get that traction? You know, getting it across the line, so to speak.
You talk like that's in the past. Lots. So, you know, I always say startups are the new court jesters. You know, they roll them out as entertainment at all sorts of events, and you have to pick it up because, in fact, one of the relationships we've got going on was picked up because I was asked to pitch in an event which you wouldn't expect anybody to see you at. There was a gentleman in the crowd that had a neighbour that had told him about the problem that they had, and he was able to make the connection between us and a multinational company. That was just by pitching in Newcastle in Watt Street one evening. And so you've got to keep rolling it out. And I think the pitch is really important because no matter if it's just the thought of an idea, if you can communicate the pitch really well, people have a perception of you. So if you're starting at a much higher level, they take it from there and forward. They're not starting at this low level of, oh, it's a good idea, but, you know, they're kind of going, no, we're really confident in you. And to mirror what Martin said, they're really confident in the people behind the product. So no matter what the product is, they believe that you can offer it and you can represent it. And so your pitch gives you the chance to do all of those things, and you just have to take all those opportunities as they arise.
I've heard that the best way to learn how to pitch is to pitch to everyone. So everyone you meet on the street, or your neighbour, just always pitch, and then you will refine over time the best way to say it in that really succinct way.
Yeah, that's very true. It's practice, 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 and I think the only way to practice is in front of people, because practicing in a mirror, you can make it's definitely not the same. In my younger years, I was a musician, so I played on stage a lot, and I see it very much the same way. You take on a persona and you go out there and nail it. So even if you're not a confident person, you need to look people in the eye and make them believe in you. So it's really important to be able to communicate that message really clearly. Yeah.
Hence your analogy to the court jester.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very much like that sometimes.
Here at the Lunatics Live, we believe that tech is an enabler, and I like to, jovially say, how does that tech save my life or better my life? I'd like to hear from you. We're talking about the pitch. How does your app save someone's life or better someone's life?
Well, it's like I said earlier. The main thing that it betters someone's life is by helping someone do a better job. So no matter if you employ people, we all like to think people are working for us out of the goodness of their heart. They're not. They're working for them, okay? So if they're able to go to work and do a better job, they can go home happier. So if you can give them a tool that helps them do a better job, I believe that's a really good thing. And that's the main aim of Scrub It, is to do a better job. So we've got scrubs, we've got the people collecting the setups, we've got the surgeons, we've got the numbs, and therefore we've got the management of the hospitals, etc., going up the tree. They're all doing a better job because Scrub It's doing its job. But of course, if we can keep the staff in the room and we can keep a surgeon doing the operation without delay, I like to think we're bettering the lives of the patient as well.
So with all this effort, what's the future?
I'm not sure, I'll be honest. We're open to anything. We're open to whatever direction it takes us. We'd really like to see Scrub It as the assumed application within operating theatres. If you don't have Scrub It, what are you doing, sort of thing. There is huge opportunity overseas because this problem is global, surprisingly. And we really believe we've got the right product. Tech-wise, it's set up ready to go globally, so it's really about just commercialising it. So the short-term future is about finding the partners to help us commercialise it. Long-term, we'd really like to see taking it into overseas markets once we get Australia out of the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
This was fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Lloyd. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And we'll cross to another ad break. Thank you.
Let's go.